Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kotchatill. Early this morning, I set my alarm for 5 a.m. to be ready to listen to news that President Trump has ended a civilization. In fact, he wanted 4 hours, so I was even mentally prepared to go until 9:30 in the morning to hear that Iran has been wiped out of the map. I was even talking of a nuclear football, and I had actually tweeted about that yesterday. Term which you know is a briefcase that is carried by an aide of the US president who stands next to him and has codes which authorizes the US president to directly launch a nuclear attack on any nation that he wants to do. That's the power of the US president. Today, later, just an hour before the actual apocalypse moment, President Trump backed down. He claimed that there would be a ceasefire for 2 weeks because Iran wanted a ceasefire. Iran, of course, says that it is not we, it is US which wanted a ceasefire. US had a 15-point plan. Iran didn't want to be a second guessing on that, so they said we have a 10-point plan. We don't know what the US plan is all about, but we know certain things in that, which obviously would be, one, that the uranium thing has to go. 2, the missile production has to stop or be eliminated altogether. So does the drone production. And of course, human rights and all the stuff. But the most important of it all, the Strait of Hormuz. That has to be kept open. The same Strait of Hormuz, which President Trump once said that I have nothing to do with it, is now the center of all attention. That is because 20% of the world's oil, crude oil, gas, and 40% of the fertilizer passes through this narrow 32-kilometer width of strait at its narrowest point. Today, it has become a chokehold. So what is the ceasefire all about? Will it really happen? Let's look at it from two perspectives. Iran and US. Yes, they may sit across a table and still talk in Pakistan or wherever. But they've done it before. Twice before, last year, when the 12-day war happened, just before that, Iran and US had almost come close to signing a deal, which the Omani foreign minister confirmed the other day. But what happened? Just before that, the US bombed Iran along with the Israelis. And we know rest what happened. Then, later on, cut forward and come forward to this year. And February 2nd and 3rd week, again in Geneva, under the tutelage of the Omani foreign minister. The Israelis were not there, of course, but the Iranians and the US sat across the table and decided on almost all the things, including the contentious uranium part. But just as they were ready to sign off, Israel and US bombed the compound of the supreme leader and killed him and 40 of Iran's top generals on the 28th of February this year. So if history repeats itself, if Iran and US come to an agreement even this time in Pakistan, mark my words, Israel will come and bomb Iran again, and the rest will be history. Already Israel is very clear. We are fighting a civilizational battle. A battle for existence, as much as Tehran is also fighting for. Israel will continue its battle against Hezbollah, come what may. This ceasefire will not impact them. In fact, even after the ceasefire was announced this morning, 4 hours, Beirut and its suburbs were subject to heavy bombardment by the Israeli army and Air Force. We all know what the problem with Israel is. For Israel, it's a question of existence. The fact that they need to exist as a state, which countries like Iran will never, ever agree. We all know about the Abraham Accords and the countries like UAE, which are friendly with Israel on this aspect. But many Arab countries still refuse to recognize the state of Israel. And that lies a problem. For Israel, Iran is an existential threat. That threat will never ever go away. For Iran, the likes of Hezbollah, Hamas and Houthis are their satellites, the reasons for their existence outside the GCC. And they need that sphere of influence. If Saudi Arabia has gone to Yemen and backing a part of the alliance there, or UAE has gone to Swaziland or wherever other countries in Africa, that is where the influence is all coming to. Today, every country wants to have a part of the geography. And that is what it's all about. Today's war, or rather the war that happened for the last 36 days, has come to a stop, hopefully come to a stop. I don't know, because as I'm recording this program, we still don't have any news of the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. But even if it happens, it's going to be a very, very short-lived one. Because the Middle East has already seen numerous such wars. Right from the conquest that Saddam Hussein tried with Iran. Later on, Saddam marched into Kuwait. Later on, he was toppled in what was called the weapons of mass destruction case. Muammar Gaddafi went for a 6. Hafiz al-Assad was chased out to Russia. Afghanistan saw one Taliban being replaced by another Taliban. Today, nothing has changed. Basically, in this war that we have been seeing over the last 36 days, if there's one country that has lost its face and lost its prestige, it's the United States. They got dragged into a war in which they had no business to be in the first place. They had a course to settle with Iran or holding their embassy staff as hostages after the 1979 coup. The fact that 200 plus of their Marines were killed in Beirut by the Iranian proxies. So there are a lot that America had to complain about. So they thought this is an ideal opportunity to hit the Iranian regime where it hurts, because they were under sanctions, the inflation was sky high, there was no water, and of course there was no oil also. But Iran stood up. Iran fought an asymmetric warfare. They knew their air force was non-existent, the navy was at the bottom of the sea, and their army was not funded at all. It was the Revolutionary Guards who called the shots in Iran. The Revolutionary Guards were a law unto themselves. They won't listen to anybody, not even to the mullahs. So what happened today in the morning in terms of declaration of ceasefire by President Trump is a way for him to easily get out of the mess that he created. And sure enough, what President Trump has done is to declare victory, because he will get the Strait of Hormuz opened in whatever state of mind it is and walk away. For Iran, the 10 conditions are very clear. 1, the uranium will not go anywhere. It will still be a part of the program. Maybe they will agree to keep the purification process to 20%. Iran will continue its ballistic program because they'll say, we need an assurance that we will never ever be attacked again by anybody, be it Israel or US or anyone. That condition neither will US nor Israel agree to. Then what happens? Iran insists that all the damage that has been done to their country should be compensated for. Again, how? Will US do it? No, they'll never. Iran has a plan for that. They said we will have a toll tax for every tanker that moves through the Strait of Hormuz. We will collect 1% of the total value of the ship as a revenue, a toll tax revenue for rebuilding Iran. When you look at the bigger aspect of it, a normal ship to pass through the Strait of Hormuz these days needs to pay 10 to 15% of its total cargo value as insurance for anything that might happen in that part of the world. It's a very high premium. But few ships will refuse to take a risk unless they have that premium in hand, unless they have that insurance in hand. And compare that 10 to 15% with 1% what you have to pay to Iran to ensure your safety. That is a bigger and better bet. So most countries will rather go with that rather than claim huge insurance or pay the premium for it. So Iran will get the money from that. What about other things? Iran will of course insist that their satellites, their proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, or the Hamas should not be touched. That is something again subject to a point of dispute. Because except for the Houthis, the main enemy of Israel is Hamas and Hezbollah. Hamas has literally been flattened out. Hezbollah was also, and as I said, they even had a ceasefire agreement with Israel as much as Hamas has. But that did not hold. The situation is very flux. We don't know how and where things will move from here. There's been a lot of euphoria today morning saying that a World War III has been avoided. The destruction of GCC countries, which was absolutely sure to happen, did not happen. But it's not that they did not suffer any damage. Even last evening, Saudi Arabia had a massive attack on its oil refineries by Iran. And for sure, Iran is not done and dusted. They know this is only a reprieve for 2 weeks, and maybe Trump will extend it further. But sitting at the negotiating table and giving away anything, the team that does it will not get a good reception once they're back in Iran. They won't even make it alive back in Iran. They know that very well. So no compromises will be made. No deals will be done unless the IRGC approves it. And we know for sure that what has happened by eliminating the supreme leader on 28th of February is that Iran has replaced its moderate face with a more extremist face of the son, Mustafa Khamenei, who is alive or dead, we're not sure. And more importantly, the clergy has been moved aside. And now the Revolutionary Guards are totally in charge. They are running Iran today. Which is why even after the announcement of ceasefire, for almost 2 hours, the missiles were still being fired at Israel. Iran knows for one thing for sure, that in the supremacy for the leadership in this region, they have the upper hand now, at least for now. Where things go from here over the next few days is a matter of conjecture, a matter of guesswork. But sure enough, President Trump has found a way to quietly slide away from this mess by claiming that he has a ceasefire, Strait of Hormuz is open, and the war is won. So he is going home. Rest, the entire Gulf will be left to fend for themselves. Because one of the conditions that Iran wants in these 10 conditions is that American forces should vacate their bases in all the Gulf countries. And that is something, even if America wants to do, countries like Qatar or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain or Kuwait or UAE will not agree. Because their survival depends on America's presence. Let us see how things go from here. It's a mess. It's a holy mess. But as they say, in every darkness, there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, something should work out. Because the entire world's economy is in tatters right now. And unless the Strait of Hormuz opens up and oil starts flowing, things will not get better. But as economists are actually talking about and agreeing that even if this happens, it will take months, if not years, for the situation to stabilize. Oil is still at $93 per barrel after the huge slide today morning. But it is still nowhere near the $70 it was there before the war started. So the repairing of the gas fields, the repairing of the refineries, and other infrastructure in the Gulf countries will take a long, long time and cost a lot of money. And naturally, those countries will want to recover that repair cost from somewhere. And that will come in terms of a higher oil price, which will stay on for the next few years, till maybe we have another war. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.